How's it going? Um, just do me a quick favor. My system might have dropped down. Just let me know if my mic sounds okay or not. If I'm like coming like echoey or something's wrong, just to make sure it's all good. It's all good. Okay. Yeah, cool. I'll have to keep the chat cool because I went to like do some like editing thing. I haven't done a live stream like this in like I don't know 4 or 5 months. And I went to click something wrong, and I thought I ended the live on accident, but I accidentally got rid of the live chat, so I had to open up like another link here. So let me have this over here to the side of the live chat. We're good, cool. Also, yeah, thanks for heads up. Cool, thanks guys. Um, so give another second before we get going, but as you guys know, we started off with this name of this webinar is Breaking in Data in 2025. To be honest, these are my favorite webinars by far, just because there's the topics, yes, are there. We'll discuss things like the learning tools, pathways into data, networking, all that good stuff. But really, it's just open for a lot of Q&As at the end, and I think that's my favorite part of all this is be able to go through all this stuff. I'm very sure for some of you guys, you've seen most of these topics, but what this really does at the end is it drives conversation. So my advice is I'm going to do my best with the comments, the chat that comes in. I'll make sure to keep up with the questions and whatnot. I'll stop every once in a while, but mostly I'll do them at the very end. But of course, feel free to engage within the chat, talk to each other, get to know each other, chat about, what you're trying to get. And I think that's something I'd like to kind of see while I get my slideshow all set up is if you want to go into the chat, you can, introduce yourself. If you want to put in your LinkedIn profile URL so people can connect with you and stuff like that, go ahead. Write down kind of like what you, I don't know. I guess we're all here to get into data. So maybe talk about your ideal role. Is there a certain tool you really like? Where are you in the journey? Give a little kind of info, should I say, while I get this slideshow all set up. Okay. Should be good there. And another thing is with the, I put it out on LinkedIn because I made it kind of like a secret or whatnot, is anyone who signed up for the webinar through Data French's website, you'll automatically be entered. I'm doing a written resume review giveaway. So what I'll do is afterwards, I'll export all the emails, give everyone kind of like a number, go online, do some like random number generator, and then whoever gets the number gets the winner, should I say. Then I'll reach out to you with the more info on how the written resume review works. And I don't know if you could tell, I huge Cleveland Browns fan. It's terrible. They were awful this year, but my wife got this to me for Christmas, and it is so comfortable. So I just wear it all the time, even though the Browns went 3-14. So it is what it is. So what we got here? We got Nashville. Justin, I want to go Nashville so bad. Like Nashville and Austin are the two remaining places I really wanted to go to. I'm going to Austin actually in 3 weeks. My company's doing like a retreat or whatnot in like the middle of February, so going there. Seattle, yeah, the weather's a little rainy out there a little bit, but I love Seattle. I love the Pacific Northwest. One of the favorite parts of the country for me. But yeah, let's go right into it. So, like I said, this webinar is all about breaking in data. Okay, there's many different topics we can talk about. We can talk about so many different things within it. I'm gonna try to keep it straightforward. My opinion at the end of the day, and I think also utilize the chat to put in your opinion, right? If you see something in here you want to add on, if there's, let's say, a platform I'm talking about, but there's another one you recommend, throw in the chat. Let this be a mutual conversation, not just me having to direct everybody, right? We're all here to learn. We're all here to participate. So let's kind of talk about the schedule a little bit. So like I said, we got a lot of topics. We got a lot. First topic, we'll talk about self-learning versus boot camps. Talk about both. I think a lot of people, I'm seeing more lately doing self-learning, but some people are preferring the boot camps. I'll kind of put pros, cons, my opinion. Talk about the technical tools needed to get into the field, the soft skills, learning platforms, portfolio, interviewing, networking. I could probably list like I don't know, 100 more. I could write 100 more, but that would be a 10-hour webinar. And I don't know if you want. I could talk 10 hours. I don't know if you want to see that though. I don't know if you want to see that. What else we got here? Charleston. I went there like 6 years ago. I'm moving my screen a little bit. I went there 6 years ago, and it was like 99 degrees, and I hated it. I liked the city, but the weather was the worst I ever experienced. Perth, Australia. Perth, okay, a little Perth action. Akron, like I'm a big. I don't know if you see, but Cleveland Browns. I don't know if you're a Browns fan, but I don't know. My dad used to work in Cleveland like twice a year. We'd always go and see the Browns play, so I just happened to become a fan. So the first question to think about is, I know that you came into here already most likely having an idea of if it's right for you, but just in general, this should be the first thing you're thinking about when thinking about this kind of career change. Is this right for you? And what I mean by that is, we go online, whether it be LinkedIn's not as bad, but if you go on other platforms like TikTok, Instagram, sometimes even Facebook, you'll get some of these, I guess I have to put myself in the bucket now, influential people who have their opinions and can sway them to either promote certain things like a course they have, or what a lot of things do, affiliate marketing, all these things, and they kind of make it to reel people in. They give people this impression. Some people don't, get affected by that. They do their research, but some people fall into the plot that, okay, this is a career where I could work remotely, make 6 figures, be all good. If that is your mindset, that's fine to have that mindset, but is it right for you? Will you actually want to do this job the rest of your career? You don't want to keep hopping careers after careers. That's not going to help you with your salary growth or anything like that. So you want to think, is this actually what you want to do for the rest of your career? And there's many things to think about, right? Working conditions. How is your current career compared to what this could be? Salary. How is that compared to this? The type of work you do. The more and more you think about it, you have to really think, could you actually not even just want to do it, but could you actually be good at it? Because that's one thing to land a job, but if you're not good at a job, what's the point? You're just going to keep going in circles and be like, oh, whatever, I'll go get something else. It's not going to be that easy. So really try to think, is this actually what you want to do, or is it just something that sounds good? If this is something you really want to do, then you take, in my opinion, Google Data Analytics Certificate. Now, I just want to see in the chat, how many of you guys have either taken it, done something with it, or heard of it, or anything? How many of you guys actually seen, heard it, take it, anything like that? And then I want to hear from you guys too. I want to also hear your own viewpoints as well. I want to hear your viewpoints of maybe the technical part, maybe the beginning, stuff like that. Like, how'd you feel if you took it or even are taking it currently in a very professional manner? How do you feel about it? And I'll let you guys kind of go through that, and I'll check in after I talk about it a little bit. But the reason why I bring it up is it's probably one of the most, if not the most well-known certificate out there for data analytics, mainly because of the Google platform and the fact that it's so accessible wherever you are in the world. There's many different pros, many different cons. I'm not going to go off all day about it. I took it in 2022. They've made changes to it. They've done additional courses as well, but this continues to be the main one. I think there's over 2-3 million people who have started it. And one of the pros is it's a monthly cost program, and I think a lot of times where people are a little hesitant to jump into, let's say, a boot camp or something like that, I believe when I took it was $39 a month. I don't know if it went up to $49, but it's either $39 or $49 a month. With that, it kind of drives you to think, okay, if I take 6 months, I have to pay this much. If I work a little harder, work a little quicker, I can get this done in 2 months, 3 months, and then not pay as much. So it's kind of a good motivator if you're a self-learner like me to get out there and not make excuses and get to learning. It's also very structured. If you're someone who really likes almost like college-style courses, have things organized, lots of reading, stuff like that, this is a perfect certificate. It's very well structured. It's not messy in any way. Very simple to follow through. It's very heavy in some parts, a lot of reading, but like I said, very structured. And in my opinion, some of the cons is it's slow paced. And I don't know if that's me because I don't know if you could tell already, but I have ADHD like to the max. And for me, I don't like to sit around and read a lot. I like to implement. I like to do. So I found it to be a little slow. And the fact that it said it recommended 10 hours a week for 6 months is ridiculous. I think if you did that math, well, that's like 200 something hours. That's ridiculous. Like, no way. Unless the only reason I'm going to spend that much hours on something is if it's going to legit give me a good chance to land a job. That lands in the second one. It's not enough of a technical challenge to me. I find that it did very well in the soft skills and describing what data analytics is, because to me, I was that one person where I'm like, oh, this sounds like a good career. I don't know if I'll be that great at it, but it sounds much better than teaching. But after going into it, I learned so much about data analytics. I learned so much about not even just tools, but just how it works. I've never had a corporate job before, so I had to completely learn just corporate workplace. I have no idea how it worked. So I appreciated that, but I just found when it got to the technical part, it just left me wanting more. And that's fine. However, it appears and it promotes itself as this like big certificate. It should take 6 months. And for something that says it should take that long, it's not enough of a challenge to me. What was it? I kind of want to see what you guys had to think too. It was great, super early introduction. Sufficient. Yeah, I mean, the problem is it's how it's promoted. I think it's gotten better. I think they've kind of eased off, but they promoted it as like this is the way to go. And I thought the same thing. I'm like, okay, this is my way to get a job. And I finished it, and I'm like, I'm not ready at all, actually. I'm more intelligent about analytics, but it did not prepare me at all for making projects or anything like that. Very brief, yeah, introduction. ADH fam all day, let's go. Yeah, I mean, I'd say it's if you treat it for what it is, and that's where my recommendation comes in. I believe they still give a 7-day free trial. Just checked the other day to still do a 7-day free trial. I think that just gives you enough time to read through the first like couple sections. This kind of goes in the line of, is it the right fit for you? I'd hate for you to spend money, do something for a month, and then realize you don't like it. Do the free trial, read through, try to understand what data analytics is. Not just we go online, pull data here, pull data there. That's the easy part of the job. You got to make sure you actually want to do it. So do that free trial, see what it's all about, because then if you like it, we move on to the real good stuff, in my opinion. And the first part is self-learning versus boot camps. And I'm kind of curious, if you want to put in the chat, if you feel comfortable, like, are you currently in a boot camp or a college program? I'll kind of put them together, boot camps and master's or bachelor's programs. Or are you a self-learner? Because I'm going to go through both, in my opinion. I'm going to try to be as unbiased as possible. But feel free to throw it in the chat. Are you a self-learner? Or are you currently in a boot camp / degree program and stuff like that? Self-learner, graduate merit, America. Yep, see that a lot. Boot camp. Cool. Awesome. Cool. Self-learning is probably more, I wouldn't say we're popular, but it probably is the first choice of a lot of people. Mainly, at least for me, when I was coming out of my career as a teacher, I was making like $41,000 a year. I could not afford a boot camp. I couldn't afford boot camp. I didn't want to go back to school again. So I made the choice to self-learn because I'm an independent learner. I can learn on my own. I'm like, hey, just give me a book and I'll learn it. Do not instruct me. I'll reach out to you if I need help. That's how I am. I like to just figure things out on my own, trial and error, and just give me my space. So I found that helpful, but I know for some people who really need that guidance and that mentorship, self-learning might not be the case. And that goes into the first pro, more affordable. I mean, you completely dictate how you want to learn. You can either use things like YouTube or platforms like Maven Analytics or Data Frenchie to control how much you spend in it, which is good. You have total control. No one's telling you exactly what you should be doing. You, at the end of the day, decide, am I going to do this? How am I going to learn Tableau? You dictate how that goes. You can choose your own learning style. I know, like, for example, for me, with how I do like my courses, they're not like full on, 10-hour courses. I purposely make them 45 minutes to an hour, so they're kind of bite-sized. You get in there and feel like you could accomplish something in, a day or two. I make stuff for that kind of learning style. People who are very hands-on, want to feel like that, they're making progress. There's that. Maven Analytics is another great option of a place that is well more structured out, way more in depth into the context of the learning. 12, 16-hour courses. That's also good for people who need a little structure, but also learn at their own pace. So with self-learning, you completely get to dictate where you learn, but also how each platform does their type of learning. You can work at your own pace. No one's there, slapping you on the head if you don't do a lesson one day, right? You completely could choose how you want to work. You don't have to have you're not tied down by a boot camp or a program that's 10 weeks long, 12 weeks long. You completely could dictate how you learn. And great for self-starters like someone like me who could use a little, kick in the behind to get going, but I don't need someone to hold my hand. I feel like I can figure it out. Give me my space, give me my materials. I'll figure it out. So I think it's really good for people in that situation. If you really could take the time and plan it out and you are very independent, it's perfect. And some of the cons, which I feel very strong about still, is obviously not as structured. Like I said, no one is there telling you exactly what to do. Okay, you have to decide every single thing you do unless you pay up. That's the thing. Everything is on your own. No one's there to walk you with their hand. You have to figure it all out. And that could get tough where if you're on LinkedIn, I post every day on LinkedIn saying my opinions. Other people are on there too posting their stuff all the time, TikTok, Instagram. So sometimes having too much information given to you, you might not pick a good plan. You might not know what to do next. So that can bring a little bit of an issue with not having much structure and no accountability. No one is once again there to tell you, well, it's a good thing sometimes where you're working at your own pace. No one's there to, yell at you if you're not doing enough. No, you have to create your own support system, whether it's people you meet on LinkedIn or people in real life. Like, you have to build that circle. So while I still feel very strong about self-learning, if you're not that person who's very confident in yourself, or if you feel like you can't work on your own, it can create a lot of issues, and you could be learning in circles. You could be spending months and months doing the same thing over and over again, not really making much progress, which is what I see sometimes. So let's see. Cool. And the next, boot camps. And like I said, I'm putting my opinions aside about my situation, right? Because I would not fit a boot camp. My learning style, my situation would not fit it. However, I'm going to put that aside and treat it as if I'm just a regular person. Boot camp, or I'm not going to, I guess in this situation, put as much of a degree program because that's a little bit different compared to a boot camp. But the boot camp is basically the pros, in my opinion, are things you don't get from self-learning. You get the structured learning style, you get mentorship and a community. Well, good boot camps do that. Give you a proper mentorship. I know some boot camps, you actually have a set career coach the whole way. You have a set coach, community. If you join a boot camp that has 1,000 people in it or 500 people have recently, graduated, it gives you a little more sense of motivation. And also structured where boot camps will literally tell you, week 1, you're learning this. Week 2, you're doing that. This week, we are having a live webinar. It's very structured. So everything that you're missing in self-learning, you get in boot camp. And that's because, first con, it costs money. It's not cheap. I do agree with most boot camps' cost and how much they charge because there is value to mentorship, structured learning. There is a value to it, but you gotta do your research, and that kind of goes into all the cons. Is you have to do your research with boot camps or anything like that. A lot of companies, a lot of college programs even are starting up masters or starting up data science boot camps, saying all these things, and they don't have as much reviews, or they don't have as much information about it, which is the last point. I'm kind of mixing it all together. And you don't want to put up $8,000-$9,000 for something that, a boot camp. I don't know. I go off all day about why I don't like the current state of boot camps. All I'm saying is you have to do research with all these cons. It doesn't matter if it costs $8,000-$9,000, but it's good enough to get you a job in 3 months. It'll be worth it. Technically, it'll be worth it. It'll pay off, right? Why do you think you go to college or anything like that? You pay for a degree to get you a really good job. and that investment pays off. So if you get a really good boot camp, it's a good investment. If you choose a bad one, you're just in the same spot as most people who are self-learning. So really take the time to go through the boot camps, ask people on LinkedIn who recently went to one or who are in one, and just try to figure out if it's right for you. Because I'd hate to see anyone waste money. That's my opinion on boot camps. I could go on for 10 hours. I'm not going to do that. So with that, after you decide that you're going to either do self-learning or do a boot camp, you're probably going to run into Excel. Now, it's funny, Kevin, out of all of those, yeah, they're not cheap. They don't usually do scholarships. Career Foundry is probably the best one I've seen from the students I've met who have went through Career Foundry. The work they've produced and just how they are from start to end is probably the best one, and it's the cheapest, in my opinion. I want you to throw in the chat because I'm curious, as an Excel junkie, I really want to see if you had to rate your Excel abilities on a scale of 1 to 10. What would you rate it? 1 meaning I don't even know how to do a formula. 10 meaning I'm writing, VBA scripts and all stuff like that. How would you rate your abilities when it comes to Excel? Because I find Excel is the biggest tool that people overlook because we've mostly have used it before in our lives, whether it be you're entering stuff into a sheet just to send off to somebody or whatnot, that we overlook and think that we know it. And I'm here to tell you, like most people, and I'm going to be extremely honest, when they tell me, oh, I'm pretty good at Excel, I give them like a test, and they don't. And it's okay. I just think a lot of times people overlook it because they see fancier tools. They think like, oh, I don't need Excel, I'm fine. Just wait till your first job. Tell me how much Excel you'll use on your first job. I can almost guarantee it'll be at least 40, 50%, at least. But also Excel is great because it leads you into other tools. The concepts you can learn in Excel will transfer over to any BI tool or SQL or Python or anything like that. Which I kind of go into some key topics. And I think that when it comes to Excel, there's hundreds of things you can learn. And that's where Excel could get a little overwhelming because there's so much to it. It's just a sheet when you open it, but there's so much that could go into it. But certain things like functions, formulas, I think are a necessity. Pivot tables, data cleaning, conditional formatting, Power Query, something like, just to understand stuff like that. But these are some of the key topics to just understand about Excel, like how could it connect to data connections, how could it connect to a SQL server, stuff like that. But it's important that you don't have to dive completely into it because it'll be very tough. It's a very tough tool to interview. The only way you really could interview it is if I'm like, okay, here's the situation. How would you fix this in Excel? It's really more conversational Excel. It's not so much like, oh, okay, if I want to combine these two columns with this, what's the formula? Like, they're not going to that's never happened to me. That won't happen. That's not how it works. Most of the time with Excel, they're going to ask how you fix this problem. If there's an issue with, the ID column in this or that, how do you fix it? Or how do you retrieve it? It's more conversational. So I really think with Excel, you do want to take your time with it, understand, the data analysis part of it, because if you do, it'll help you translate into, which in my opinion is by far the most important tool, SQL. I don't care what anyone tells you, Python, whatever tool comes out, anything, no, this is it. This is going to be by far the most important tool. As someone's been on 3 job searches, I don't even use SQL that much. But every single role I've interviewed for, they ask about SQL. I don't use that much in my job. I use it like 10%. But it's by far the easiest tool to quiz you on. It's very easy because it's very black and white. Either you got it right or you didn't. It's very straightforward. So I find that SQL is very heavy in interviews because easy to quiz. But also if you have the abilities to go into databases and retrieve data and join them, it puts you miles ahead of people who primarily work in only Excel or something like that. And with SQL, I really think people spend a lot of time on it, but in reality, there's not too much into it, in my opinion. Now, when I look at it now, I don't think it's too much. But you got to think, you're trying to land your first job, not your fifth. So you just got to know enough. You don't need to be a master at some of these things, right? I think like some of the main things to understand are fundamental SQLs, like kind of single table queries, like filtering, sorting, data aggregations, joins. Those are kind of the main stuff. That'll take you very far in your career. And then more the intermediate or advanced topics like CTE, subqueries, window functions. I would not, like, you don't need to be a master at a window function. I can't remember the last time I even wrote a window function in my work. Like, I don't need to do it. Like, if I really need to do it, I'll go on ChatGPT and throw it in there. So for an interview, think if it's your first job, they're not going to hammer you with these advanced query questions. And if they do that, that's not a place you want to work. You don't want to work at a place. They don't want to have an interview. You don't want to work there. So really with SQL, try to understand single table queries, basically anything not involving a join. So things like group by, order by, having, where. I'm going to ask a quick question in chat. Quick question in chat. What is the difference between where and having in SQL? What is the difference between where and having in SQL? Throw in chat. Let's see. I'll answer Levi's question. Is it possible to become job ready in SQL within 1-2 months? 100%. Yeah. But also at 1-2 months, it depends on a lot of things. How are you learning? Are you sitting down for an hour at a time? Or sitting down for 15 minutes at a time? What platform are you using? I think to know the fundamentals and intermediate parts of SQL could definitely be done in 4 to 6 weeks, no doubt. 6 weeks max. That's if you're only doing like 3 hours a week. Let's see. There we go. Cool. Yep. Perfect answers. Thank you guys. It's a very key interview question for entry-level applicants. Where and having, and also CTEs and subqueries. Two, for some reason, very common question. And also the difference between inner and left join. Those are probably the top 3 come up. Anything of a comparison, just so you could tell the difference. And then also coding practice. I think SQL is extremely easy to practice. There's so many websites out there, like Data Lemur, LeetCode. There's infinite amount. You'll never have to pay to practice SQL. So SQL is very accessible to learn. Plenty of websites to practice that on. And then once you get that down, you got down Excel and SQL. Next up, you got either, I put a slash in between, Tableau or Power BI. This is tough because a lot of people will always ask, should I learn Tableau or should I learn Power BI? It's a very tough because once again, like my last 2 jobs have been very Excel, SQL heavy. Any dashboarding I do, I've been using Looker, and also I do a lot of reporting within Excel, and I don't really need to get into the BI tools that much. My first job was very Tableau heavy, and I kind of like, I'm trying to get my steam back. I'm trying to get my groove back with it. But I've been working with Power BI a lot, consulting-wise too, working with some people on the side, and my opinions have definitely changed over the years. I really think that when it comes to Tableau or Power BI, I think you start with one. And I think I would personally start with Power BI first because there's so much you could do with it from a data connection and power querying. Like there's so much you could do with it as just a data tool that any concepts you learn in there from a storytelling perspective, from a dashboarding skill point of view, could easily be translated into Tableau. I also find that Power BI is a little bit, I'm not going to say the word easier, but I think it's simpler to make a proper dashboard in Power BI than Tableau. Tableau's got a little bit more of a learning curve, but Tableau has something that Power BI doesn't. Tableau is Tableau Public, which is phenomenal. It is it's amazing. I love it so much. I think Tableau Public's perfect. It's a great place to view other people's work. You also have your own page. I use for the job board now. I use Tableau over Power BI because Power BI was just being a complete pain with the data connection part because I use Google Sheets for my stuff. But I would stick with Power BI first because a lot of these concepts like connecting, joining data, understanding clear visuals, dashboard design, meaningful KPIs in your dashboards, understanding color, context, and consistency. That translates to any tool. Any tool. So I would probably start Power BI first. And then once you have a good grasp of that, take like a small, go on YouTube and do like a 3-hour, 2-hour thing of Tableau. Just learn the interface of it. Because as long as you just have both under your belt, you'll be fine. But I would say Power BI is a good one to start with over Tableau. But it won't hurt. It's kind of like it's like, flip a quarter. It doesn't really matter too much. As long as you focus on the things right here, understanding how to properly make a dashboard. And I don't want to go off about this, but when I am on LinkedIn, I don't ever comment stuff. That's not my place. I'm not a person that's going to comment something critical. Like, I'd rather just shoot a message to somebody. But dashboarding is such a subjective topic. You can make a dashboard one way. I can make it another. And we have two totally different opinions. It's not like SQL or Excel where, okay, I wrote this query. Okay, I wrote this one. Or whatever. Which one gets the job done better? That one. Okay, cool, done. This one's totally different. Because dashboarding is like kind of like an art, right? So when you go on LinkedIn, you might look sometimes and be like, oh, wow, look at that crazy dashboard. Look at the colors on this one. Look at that. I'm telling you, most of that stuff it's like a passion project. And that's okay to make dashboards as like a passion project. But most corporate dashboards are boring. They are bland, boring, but they tell a story. They're able to be filtered easily. They're just easier to use. So don't try to get overwhelmed if you go online and start seeing these dashboards. I'm like, oh my gosh, look how they're doing this and that. Dashboarding is like a small part of your job. Because if you're just good at dashboarding, like that can get you somewhere, but that's a very small percent of people who become Tableau or Power BI consultants or experts. It's a very small percent. So just make sure you focus on how to actually make proper dashboards, visual stuff like that. Focus on one tool first, move to the other, just understand the interface, and then you can move on to the next stage. You guys feel free as I'm going through this, ask any questions in the chat about the tools I went over. Because also you might think, okay, Chris, you didn't talk about Python. What the hell? Why not Python? Well, as someone who even made a LinkedIn Learning course about Python and Excel, you might think, why do I not have it on there? And I'm pretty strong about this. No one will ever make me change my opinion on it. Python is there, and you should learn it if you are able to. If you are having trouble with Excel, SQL, or Power BI, you should not be going to Python yet. You need to learn those first three before you move on to anything you see here, in my opinion. Because if you can't get down SQL, but you're going to learn Python, that makes zero sense. You really got to make sure the three main ones, a BI tool, databases, spreadsheets, understand those, and then these become a little more additional. Python would come first. R is very specific. I don't see a ton of jobs requiring it, but it's if you know it and know it well, it could put you above some other people. And then the bottom is a Looker symbol. Looker is getting a little bit more popular within companies. I know my company uses it a lot because we use Google products. So that might be something else to kind of dab your toes in case you want to it's another BI tool. So in case you want to just make a dashboard in there or get used to it, it could come in handy for, job interviews, because my current company uses Looker and my job board, it's not on anymore, but it was on Looker. So I was able to kind of just like talk about that. I'm like, hey, look what I made. I didn't make it public yet, but I'm like, hey, look what I made. And they're like, oh, wow. Like, okay, so you know it. So yeah, I would focus on those first three before moving into anything overseas here in this order: Python, R, and then something like Looker in case you want to dab your toes in it. Next up, learning platforms. So you might think, okay, so we want to learn, right? You have all those things you got to focus on, but where are we going to learn it? Hey, what's up, Travis? I appreciate the support, man. Thanks for coming by. So, learning platforms. You might think, Chris, there's so many damn places to learn. Where do I go? Where do I learn it from? Well, I got you covered. So, learning platforms. I have a couple recommendations. If it's free, I know you've seen this guy everywhere. The reason why I put Analyst is in 2022. that was probably my main inspiration to get into the field. Because not only does he have this boot camp, the technical stuff, he also does a ton of videos about soft skills, career development. The amount of content with him himself, like that could really take you half the way. I think his stuff is just all way more valuable than the Google certificate and some other stuff out there. So, great option for free. And of course, we got to add in Data Frenchie. You got to promote the Data Frenchie platform. I try to make as many things accessible for free, whether it be a webinar, I got courses, assessments, all that stuff. If anything ever is paid on Data Frenchie, it's because it's like a 6-hour webinar or something crazy different. But I try to make it as accessible and free as possible. And then for anything that's paid, Maven Analytics, Data Camp, and Coursera are some more popular ones, but I think over my experience, they are by far the best. And then my recommendation, of course, with the free ones are the same one to the left, Alex Analyst Bootcamp, and then anything that Data Frenchie has to provide. And then paid, Maven Analytics all day, if it was up to me. And as a person who is, I'm trying to make Data Frenchie a learning platform on a different level. I'm trying to do more like live stuff in the future. So a little different than some of the other places which are more sit back, learn on your own type thing. Maven Analytics, if I had $39 a month, I would just pay $39 a month for Maven Analytics, and that's it. Like that's everything you need is there, in my opinion. I have no sponsorship with there. I know the people work there, and they're good people, very good people, but I would learn everything from there. They're by far the best with, they got great SQL stuff. They got really good, Excel. Chris Dutton is one of the best Excel instructors out there. He has amazing content over there. They got everything. Python, Power BI, all that stuff. So if it's paid and I got $39 a month plus a few bucks for tax, Maven Analytics is getting my money every single month. So that's just my opinion on that. So after you learn, the learning part's the easier thing. Learning to me is the easiest part of the journey. I'll say the word easy because, you just sit down, learn this about SQL, learn Excel, learn this, and then time to implement. This is a stage where people hit a wall. And I don't mean a wall like they don't make a portfolio. It's just they make a portfolio that's not good. Or it's just complete mess. And in my opinion, a proper portfolio should probably just have, I won't say the word just, but 3 to 4 projects. You don't need 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You don't. And if you do, I'm sorry, I'm not attacking you personally. But you're making it harder on yourself to promote yourself. You should just have 3 to 4 of the best projects you have. They should not just be 8 to 10, 2 for SQL, 2 Power BI, 2 Excel. No, 3 to 4 of your best. Because you leave 8, 9, 10 projects on there, you got to think, at least for me, if I make some 8 or 10 times, one of them is bound to be worse than the other. It's just bound to happen. So when that happens, I leave it open for someone to choose. What if they pick one of the worst projects on there? And then they get, they're thrown off or whatnot. You want to showcase the 3 to 4 of the best projects you have on your portfolio. And the way to do that is you don't have to make projects that are only using one tool. You could utilize more than one tool per project. Like a perfect example is SQL and Power BI. Query in SQL, throw into Power BI, visualize it. Excel to or even SQL to Excel. Same thing. Query in SQL, throw into Excel, make a report. Try to show some kind of data transformation, not just using only SQL, only Power BI, only Excel. Try to show some kind of process of taking raw data, whether from a database or a spreadsheet, and turning it into something. That's the best way to do 3 or 4 projects. You don't have to have 8 to 10 separate ones. You can have 3 to 4 projects showing a complete transformation process of using the tool. I got 7 projects, but I have 3. Well, yeah, it's going to be up to you and what you want to do with them. Like, you should look at each project and think, do each of them the same, like in skill-wise? If you feel like each one is, the same skill, same ability, not one is better than the other, that's on you to do whatever with that. Like, I know if I open a portfolio with 7 projects, I'm going to feel a little And also, wait, if you have your best 3 as a featured, that means you're making your other 4 look bad, right? So you shouldn't almost have a feature. And I'm glad you kind of said that, because you are kind of doing that. You have your best 3 as a featured thing, right? So if you have 3 to 4 that are much better than the others, why are the others on there, right? You don't want to leave it open for someone to interpret, right? You want to kind of just think, what is the best of the best? And it's fine. Like, and if you have a hard time, that's kind of like doing a resume. It's your work. It's really hard for someone like me to tell you, like, yeah, show 4 projects. And you're like, oh, but I like all 6. Like, at the end of the day, you determine what you want to do with it. However, you want to make it easier on anyone reading your stuff. Make it easy, 3 to 4, easier, to pick from, right? Personal over guided. I really think that you really should not have, in my opinion, you really shouldn't have, like, unless you took a guided project and made changes to it, you probably shouldn't have a guided project in there, because if you're having 3 to 4, each of them should be your own and showing your best efforts. If you want to throw one in there just to put something in there and feel accomplished, that's perfectly fine. I'm all good for getting yourself, a good pat on the back to start with. I'm all good with that. But just think that your portfolio should be the best of the best, not something that's copied off someone else. And I think I had an incident about a few months ago. I was talking to someone, and they're like, I had an interview, and they looked at my portfolio, and they had suspicions of stuff. And I'm like, okay, I've never actually heard this one before. I looked at their work, and they had 4 projects. 3 of the 4 were their own work, and one of them was a guided project. I think what's his name? I'm gonna type in the chat. I don't want to type it wrong. I think this is his name. He does like a lot of Tableau projects. Data with Bara, I think, something like that. He's got some good Tableau projects. They are really good. Like, they are phenomenal. The way that they come out and how productive they look, they are amazing. But think, if 3 of the 4 are your work, and let's just all be honest here, I am not an expert at anything. I mean, I'm pretty good with Excel, but I'm nowhere near an expert level. Everything else I'm good at. I'm good with SQL. I'm good with Power BI. I'm good with this stuff. But if I take someone like Bara's guided video, which he's coming in with loads of experience, and then I have 3 of my own, do you think that one's going to look like an outlier? It will. It'll look like an outlier. It's going to be like, what the heck? Like, why is this one a million times better than the others? And right away they're going to know, okay, it was guided. And it's fine to do a guided project. You should do guided projects. That's how I learned. That's how I did like a million guided projects, but I never put them on my portfolio, because that's just going to look very suspicious and look way off from my actual work. And I would highly recommend that you try to do them on your own. Anything goes in your portfolio. And then your summary equals technical. Your summary is also equally as important. Do not discount your summary, because at the end of the day, people think you got to be the greatest SQL expert. You got to be the biggest Power BI expert. No. You just got to be good enough at it. But you also got to be able to tell a story, be able to explain your analysis, what came out of it. So many times people make projects that are just, they make a project just to do it. And I'm like, okay, what'd you get out of it? And they're like, I don't know. I just did it. Right? And that's fine. Like, when you're learning, like, you don't really understand that second part. Like, you made a project, but what was accomplished? What did you find? What did you solve? That's where your summary section comes in. That tells me if you actually analyzed data properly. What came out of this project? Did you just do it to do it, or did we solve something? So make sure not to discount your summary. And once again, hitting it back to me with analytics for free. By far my most recommended for a portfolio, because it's really easy to set it up. I swear I'm not sponsored. I don't get a single dime from them. I just really, really love what they do. Highly recommend their portfolio part for hosting. You could embed your Tableau or Power BI dashboards. I love it. I love it. And it's good to do high level projects too, like David Barr. It's okay to do them and be like, okay, look what I made, because then you could take what you learned and try to implement it into your own work. It might not look the same, but you're learning. So it's okay to take things from videos and take the concepts and put them into your own projects, but you should not completely take it and throw it into your own portfolio. Okay. Resume. Oh my gosh. My favorite part. By the way, I put this webinar for an hour. It ain't going 1 hour. It's going way over. I told you my ADHD is a wreck. It's horrible. Resume is by far the most, could be one of the most toxic things to talk about. It is so polarizing, and everyone has their own opinion because everyone's their own person. Everyone has their own resume. Everyone has their own viewpoint, and that's fine. But that's why resume advice is really tough. I don't do it a lot on LinkedIn. I don't do it because it never leads to a good conversation. I keep it to myself. That's it. But when it comes to resume, in my opinion, I've done prior round, I think I counted like 190 written reviews in the last year. Met with about 35, 40 people with resume calls. I've seen a good amount, and most of them are people in the 0 to 2 years of experience area. And I do see some consistencies and some things you might not even see in here that I might want to elaborate on. But if you don't have much related experience, it really should just be one page. I know that could really come into too, like if you are coming from a other career that you have maybe 15, 20 years experience, it's really tough to do that. But if you're a student or someone who is younger in the career, one page. Don't need to expand it. Keywords from job descriptions, those are great things to throw in if you go through a job description, see some of the keywords that are in there, like maybe words like collaborate or certain technical tools. You can put them into your summary section or your experience. Actions are better than orders. What I mean by that is it's how you present your experience section. You want to feel like when the person reads it, that you are not someone who just sits at your desk, all nice and proper, and you wait for someone to tell you, hey, Chris, go analyze that data. Okay, boss, I got it. No, you want to sound like you went to your boss and said, hey, I analyzed this data. I found that we're missing our budget by $800,000 because of this. That is what you want to showcase in your resume and how you want to be read as. You want to feel like you are the person who is taking charge, not you just sitting down waiting for someone to give you work. That can be hard sometimes when you might think, okay, but that was my job. I did sit around and wait for orders. Well, guess what? You're writing your own resume. They're going to call your job and be like, hey, was Chris an order taker or an action taker? They don't know. They don't care. Just the way you present yourself, you should be overly confident in your resume. You're not going to be, I don't want you lying on it, but be confident in yourself. Make it feel like that your job was, have some substance in it. So make sure when you're going in there to make it feel like you are giving action, that you took action, like optimize, led, things that you took charge more than you were just someone who was conducted, did this. Like you want to make it not feel that you just sat around and were a part of the team. Clear, simple format. Go on things like, what's the name of this website? Teal's one. Teal.com has a free resume builder. You can just throw your resume in there, give you a good, clean format. I see a lot of times people send me resumes that are in like a horrible format. Words are all not aligned. So just get a clear format, please. It'll make your life a lot easier on recruiters who pull in your information. Key KPIs, what I mean by that is like in your experience section, I'm going to go off on something for a little bit. I'm going to sit back for this one. I need to sit back for this one. I'm going to talk about this. We're going to chill here. Got a little left some stuff in my coffee still. That was really cold. So when you go to your experience section and you quantify your impact, for example, the example I just said right there with actions or orders, implemented a reporting system to track misses in our pipeline, saving our company $150,000. That, like, a key KPI is you put a metric on your action. Now, some jobs it's hard to do that. It's really hard to think about, okay, what was the impact of this? Some things I do to figure out impact are my hourly salary, or hourly pay, times how many hours per week, times the year, like how much time does that save? Did this process involve two people doing it? Like, I'm doing a bunch of calculations to figure out the actual impact of it. But you don't want to write down, like, the most common thing I see is people writing too many metrics, too many quantified results from your actions, that it's overkill and it looks very suspicious. If every single thing you have has a metric, I'm like, okay, how did they, like, no way. Like, and they all end in zeros. Like, no way. Okay. This person's full of it. Like, I don't think this is real. So you want to really think, like, how you present yourself is very important, that you're not overkilling the quantitative results, okay? That you're using them appropriately for things that actually show results. Okay, now I'm going to set up for that one. So, and also your portfolio, if you're starting off, I really think you should have a portfolio section showing off your projects. Shouldn't try to hide that. And having a really good summary section. I see a lot of people don't have a summary section. Get one. It's like a mini cover letter. Get one. 2 sentences. Make sure to write things like, talk about your technical skills, but also what you can bring to a company. Do not skip out of the summary section. Okay, I'm going to skip that one. LinkedIn. Okay, let me see. Include all projects on LinkedIn. Same thing before. So I'll kind of answer that one about including my LinkedIn. I believe, did I cover on this one? Yeah, I'm going to cover on this one about how to utilize LinkedIn with that. So obviously, if you came here because I do a horrible job at promoting myself on other social platforms, you found me on LinkedIn, right? As someone who I started my LinkedIn in September of 2022, I knew 0 people, no connections. I had, what was it? Levi, I'll answer your question in like 3 minutes. Is that okay? I'll answer in like 3 minutes. I appreciate it though. That's when I started on LinkedIn in September 2022. 0 connections. I was just a teacher, and I had no idea what I was doing. I'm not social media happy. I never had social media until 2 years ago. I got rid of my Instagram. I didn't have TikTok. I got rid of Snapchat, Facebook, all that stuff. I don't have anything because I just didn't like it at all. But I knew if I wanted to get into this field, I had to utilize LinkedIn, and it still bothers me a bit today. I'm still, not the biggest fan at times of it, but it is something that, if done properly, it can work. First thing is thinking stand out from the crowd, and what I mean by that is thinking, how can you go onto a platform like LinkedIn and not blend in? So, for example, when you leave comments on a post, are you going to say, if you comment on one of my posts, and I'm like, hey, Chris, nice post. Like, thank you. Like, that's all you're going to get, right? It's, oh, thank you very much. Like, whatever. Like, that's how it is. It's like, oh, like, not much was put behind that. It sounds like someone who just copied, threw it on post, and that's it. The people who take their time and actually write thought-out comments stick out to me. I had someone who would comment on my stuff pretty often, and after about 3 months, they reached out, and they're like, hey, Chris, sorry to ask, but do you mind if can you give me a referral for this job at Spring Health? And not one, they fit the role, but 2, I've seen them so many times that I'm like, okay, yeah, no problem. Let's get you a referral. And they actually got hired, and I got a good little paycheck from Spring for helping the referral. So, like, things like that make a difference. Standing out from the crowd, make sure that, out of the tons of messages I get every day, I'm not showing off, I'm just saying the messages I get every day, I got to run data, Frenchie, all this stuff. How can you stand out from the crowd? Things like commenting are a really good thing to do. Like-minded professionals, surround yourself with other people trying to get into data, not people who are being negative, complaining about, I get the job market's not good, but it's not horrific. It's not good, but it's not horrific. Surround yourself with positive, motivating people. Learn from data professionals. Like, I don't know why you want to learn from me, but if you want to learn from me, like, I'm around. Data professional like myself, other data creators. Like, I think that with anyone you follow on LinkedIn is probably the best platform to learn from on social media. I think TikTok's good too if you pick the right people. YouTube obviously is really good. But when you're on LinkedIn, make sure to, when you look at each person who has maybe a following, just make sure you understand the type of content they make. Is it kind of fluffy? Is it technical? Like, there's always a different, like, I have one of my favorite creators who is very technical. I have a really good creator who's great at writing posts. Like, I have some of my favorite ones. So make sure to pick that so you don't get too overwhelmed. To kind of pick your crowd, pick who you want on your feed. That'll be helpful. Attending events could be LinkedIn does not a great job at doing LinkedIn events. There is, I think, it used to be a tab on like events on LinkedIn, like virtual stuff. But there's that option too. Job board, the jobs on LinkedIn have gotten a little bit worse. I'm not gonna lie about that. They've gotten a little worse, a little more sponsored, a little more spam. But I think LinkedIn jobs I kind of talked about this in my LinkedIn course, that it's one of the best, if not the best, at finding jobs, in my opinion. You could filter it into many different ways. There's a lot you can do with it. So I still think it's very strong. I also do my own free job board as well. I talk about that a good amount. I'll throw it in at the end. But where I go on LinkedIn because I believe in finding jobs on LinkedIn. Going into the searching for what you want, finding people who post about it. It gives you a little bit better of a chance to actually get a response. I'm not saying that it's going to be perfect, but it's better than applying over and over again, expecting something different. Content creation could get you pretty far. I know for me, like I said, I'm not tech heavy. I don't do social media because I just know how much stress it brought on me, especially, I'm 29. I'm gonna be 30 in 3 weeks. 30 in 3 weeks. College, like being around social media, like I remember I was in like, I don't know how old it was, 15 or 16 when like Instagram started getting big or became even a thing, stuff like that. Like I grew up as a teenager and then early adult in this social media era, and like it was a lot to me. I didn't really like it that much. My friends are very involved with doing all this posting and stuff, but I just found it very overwhelming. But with LinkedIn's different. You're trying to get a job. Who cares? Get on there and talk about what you want to talk about. Talk about something you're learning. Share a project. Do something. Because for me, what got me going on LinkedIn, to be honest, I was documenting my interview journey. For some reason, people wanted to learn about my interview journey. So I'm here being a teacher, making posts during my lunch break, talk about LinkedIn every day. And it was like my personal, I almost call it a diary, but like a journal, something like that. And then it turned into what I have right now. So I think content creation would be good. But at the end of the day, LinkedIn's all about long-term over short-term. It's not something that you could expect to, making connections or trying to grow on LinkedIn doesn't happen in a day or two. It takes a long, long time. I think 2022 and 2021 were a little bit easier to get LinkedIn going. It's a little bit more difficult now to network properly with how LinkedIn is charging people, stuff like that. But it's all long-term. So even if it's not the most helpful right now in your career, it'll be very helpful much more down the line. Job hunting. How many of you guys in chat, how many guys are currently in the job hunt right now? Because I can talk about this stuff all day, obviously, but like how many of you guys are in the job hunting phase of your career, should I say? Every day, every day. Yeah. Because this is honestly the biggest. This is the biggest block. You're learning, making portfolios. We're going good. We're going strong. We're having fun, and then you gotta apply for a job, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this is brutal," because you're moving so quickly, and then you hit the job hunt, and then it just stops. Then you just apply and wait. This is where it hits people hard, because when everything you're doing is positive, right? You're learning, you're making projects, things are going good, and then job hunt is where things completely halt. I'm not gonna lie, and I'm not here to sugarcoat things either and say like this is probably the one thing where I can't relate to this part, but I landed my job in 61 days. I'm not showing off. I'm just saying 61 days. I can show proof too if you need my emails, if anyone wants to deny it. But it took 2 months. And people think, oh, what's the trick? What's this? I wish I knew. I think I just ran into it. I think an interview just really, really good. Because I could kind of elaborate. So without my job hunt, I applied for maybe 340 jobs. I interviewed for 3 different companies, and the company I interviewed for, I went through a 6-round interview process, and I got ghosted, and I'm like, okay, well, that's a thing. I ended up getting another interview for the same company the next week. 1-round interview, I got offered the job next day. So I don't know how it happened. I was in school and I got the call, and I'm like, there's just no way I got a job. Like, no way it happened that quickly. I didn't even know SQL that well. I just barely knew how to join data in SQL. Like, I didn't know it that well. But I think what came down to what I realized is job hunting is, yes, you have to promote yourself well with your resume and stuff like that, but that just only gets you the interview. There's also more stuff to that as well, besides just, presenting yourself well, the resume and stuff like that. You got to be ready for when the interview comes around. But if you're in the job hunt, things like creating a job tracker, you really should do that. If you don't want to make one for yourself, you go on Etsy, pay like $5. People make job trackers all the time. I want to make one myself and put it on Data Frenchie, but it's gonna take a little. I want to make sure I do it right. Things like a job tracker is good. Know what kind of roles you're looking for. Don't go into blindly. Understand, okay, is it remote? Is it hybrid? Is there a pay range you're looking for? Like, know exactly what you want and not be too open-ended. If you're too open-ended, you're going to run yourself in circles and not really know how to adapt in your search. Domain knowledge and experiences. If you have any domain experiences, and I think like the question I get asked is like, okay, I want to break into healthcare. How could I do that if I don't have healthcare experience? It's very tough. I don't have an answer for that. The only way, like, I have a healthcare job, I'm in a healthcare company, is because of my financial background. I have some experience in working with Excel, finance. I understand it. So my job, I work for a healthcare company, but I'm more of on the finance/sales analysis part of the company. So understand if you have domain experiences, that can help. But think deep down, what are the types of data you're good with? Like me, I work with financial and sales data all the time. I just think that clicks by far the best. So if you come from a background, that could be, a specific domain that could come in handy. Schedule a day and time for job hunting. Try to think on a weekly basis, when can you sit down for at least like 45 minutes and apply for jobs? Have a plan, because if you go in blindly, you're going to look back and realize you didn't do as much. That usually happens. And also use different methods. Don't just cold apply. Use easy apply. Find jobs on LinkedIn by searching. Even use things like Indeed, ZipRecruiter. Maybe not be the best, but use a variety of other methods as well. Don't try to just only do one thing and expect things to change. Utilizing LinkedIn, I kind of talked about that a little bit a little earlier, a little bit right before. One big thing, this is kind of what I do with my job board, to be honest, where I find posts from recruiters, hiring managers looking for data analysts. Use search bar on LinkedIn for keywords such as data analyst remote. Try to switch up the keywords a little bit to see what you're looking for. And of course, having a well-organized professional profile along with simple, informative message will increase your response rate. Simple, informative message means do not message people a 5-paragraph persuasive essay on how to, on you wanting a job, right? Keep it simple, informative, 3 to 5 sentences. Do not write a novel. Do not do it. I don't think it'll help at all. It doesn't help for me. When I get those, it's an immediate delete because I just can't. I can't read 5-6 paragraphs. Can't do it. And then lastly, interviewing, right? You're going through the job search. A job search is really just a lot of, the same old, but you have to keep adapting, understand how things are going, using your job tracker to kind of see what type of jobs you're getting a lot of interviews for and stuff like that, because you can spend all that time, but a lot of people neglect interviewing. They don't really get to that part, and they're like, oh, I'm not ready, or I don't really know what to do. So if you haven't entered the interview process yet, typically, this is from my experiences, typically the first call is with an HR recruiting call. A lot of people discount this. They don't call it an interview. Well, I consider it an interview, because if you don't do a good job, you don't move on, right? I count it as an interview, and it's really about focusing on your resume and previous experiences and be able to kind of learn more about you, why you're a good fit. Have you looked at the job? They're trying to screen. They're screening you through to make sure you actually fit what they're looking for. In that time frame, you really should ask, how's the process look? Because you might find out, there's 6 more rounds. It might be like, oh my gosh, like, no way, I can't do it. Or like, there's 2 more rounds and they want to finalize it by end of next week. Now you know what we're getting into. And then ask salary. I beg you, do not say a specific number if it gets to that point. If you end up giving something, because I've had some calls where they're like, what's a range you're looking for? And I'm like, well, what's your range? And they're like, oh, like we can't give a range. Well, right away, I'm not interested, but whatever. If I had to say something, I'm going to say a range. Like, for example, if I want 100K for a job, I'm going to say my range is 100 to 120. I'll say 100 to 120. I'm never going to say the number 100 because what if they come to me and like, oh, we want to offer you a job for 110. Well, because you give the range, that's what you're looking for. If you give a specific number, they would just give you 95 or 100, maybe not even give you 100, right? So really think when you're doing salary, be strong, but make sure when you give a range, if there's a number you're looking for, let's say, for example, it's 80K, say 80 to 100. Don't just say 80, say 80 to 100. So it gives a little wiggle room in case, they realize, okay, your middle range is 90. So if they offer you 80, they know that's the very lowest of your range, which you might not take. So that's how the first call goes. Hiring manager call. Oh, what happened to my slide? It all messed up here in the middle. I'm sorry about that. This is by far the most important. By far the most important. This is where it usually gets a little more technical. Sometimes a little more behavioral. Depends on the type of company you're interviewing for and stuff like that. But this is where you're going to meet your boss. This is going to be your boss. And I think this is going to be extremely important to make a connection with them because you'll be reporting them for everything. Be overly confident in your abilities if you might be lacking more in one area. Do not kind of put the implication that you're just okay at something. Be confident. Say you're excellent at this, excellent at that. Do not say, I'm just okay with this, or I'm still learning that. Don't worry. And I'm like, no. Go in there, get your chin up, and be confident in yourself. Do not just let them walk over you. Be confident in yourself. You are also a part of the conversation. It's not one way. You two are having a mutual conversation. They are not controlling it. You're not going to let them control the conversation either. It's a mutual conversation. Be confident. Match their energy. And also at the very end, have 2 to 3 insightful questions ready at the end. What I mean by that is don't ask things like, how's the culture here? How's this? Get pretty specific. Spend some time, research the person, really try to understand how could I actually make good questions that shows my interest in the role, but also you want to make sure you want the job. You want to make sure you actually want this job. You want to work here. Don't make it feel like they control it all. You are the person they want to hire. So you get out there and say, what are some challenges you guys ran in the last year? Right away, boom. Now you're making them think. Okay, good question. So one issue we're having is we're having trouble keeping an eye on our pipeline. Boom. Now you think about how can you come in and help that out. Now you know what you're going to get into on your job. So make sure with your questions they're actually going to ask insightful ones, not just generic ones like how's culture? How's your experience been? That's so bland. It's too open-ended. You want to get kind of specific in what you ask. And lastly, usually it gets to a panel interview. Sometimes they might split this part up into, instead of being 2 to 4 people, they'll take those 2 to 4 people and you'll meet with them individually, which, we'll take this 3-round process into more of like a 5-round. But I'd say most of the interviews I've had have been involving a panel interview. What could be salary range 0 1? So, Levi, just confirm, before I give the advice, you're in the U.S., right? Because if you are, I'll give you after I go over the slide, I'll tell you what you should be expected in that salary range. But typically the panel interview is 2 to 4 people on the call. Like I said, sometimes they might split it, sometimes all together. It's usually other people on the team, like other analysts or other people on another data team that are really there to ask more of the technical questions. However, if the panel is mainly upper management, let's say directors or anything like that, it's more behavioral. They're not going to be, a senior director is not going to be like, tell me what's the difference between an X lookup and V lookup. You think they know? They haven't probably touched a lookup in years, right? They're going to ask more behavioral questions, make sure you're a good fit and you're what they're looking for in the role. If there are more people in your range, meaning like your title level, they're more senior analysts or mid-level analysts, you should expect more technical questions because they are more technical than directors, usually. So there are some things to expect on like the panel interviews. And yeah, that's all I got. Let me go back to the front. Yeah, that does it. That's what I got for the presentation. So what I'll do is, this is the time. Yep, went hour 10 minutes. That's a lot shorter than the last time I've done this, so I'll take it. Yeah, actually, Kevin, I was gonna say that I was thinking 60 to 80. It completely depends on if it's local, hybrid, on site. It also depends in Ohio. I mean, like if we're just talking like, I think say you're in Akron. So if you're out near Akron, which you're not right down the street, but Cleveland's like hour or so away. Yeah, I mean, if you're looking more local, I'd even probably go more like 55, 70, 75, more local. If it's remote, you have more potential, I think, to make a little bit more. But I would say if you get more than 80K in your first job, I would say that's definitely above average. Oh, sorry, you're in Akron. I'm sorry. But I would say if you get above 80, that is definitely above average. I know it's 2022. My first job, I was making 60. I was offered 55, but I negotiated up to 60. So, first job was 60,000, remote 2022, which I don't think it's even that much different now. I think the company that I took that offer for is still offering the same amount of stuff right now. So, I was making 60K, but a lot of the friends I have or connection I have on LinkedIn, they were making stuff like 70 to 80 and stuff like that. So I was considered a little bit more lower average. But guess what? Guess who makes more now? So it's all about career growth. So 60K was my first job, and I felt that was a very fair salary for what I did. Because you'll get to see that experience is so valuable. Once you get some experience under your belt. You know, if you take a job at 60, 65, and you get, a couple years under your belt, company doesn't really promote you that much or whatnot, you could probably get another job for, I think my second job paid me 85. So I was able to get a little bit of a good jump naturally because I started building up some experience and stuff like that. So yeah, I would say 60, 80 is good. If you're thinking more remote, 55, 70, 75, more local. I'd say something like that's probably good. So if you guys want, you can throw in the chat any questions you have, anything you want me to try to answer. I'll go through the chat again just to double check if I missed any questions, but I was kind of checking as I went along. But feel free to ask any questions because this is a total open slate. Pretty much the only time I do these Q&As is like during now. So if anyone has any questions, feel free to throw it in the chat. I'll wait around a little bit. I'm going to check. Oh, Levi, you had a question above here. I'll answer this. How can you improve my logical thinking and statistical knowledge for data analyst roles? So that's a fantastic question. How can you improve your logical thinking? I think that's extremely, it's very hard to do it without being on the job. I know for me, it's obviously just gotten better and better because of the situations I've been in. But I know like when I was starting out my first job, it was hard. Like I was, doing more. I was focused more on the technical part than answering the questions or thinking, more about the business and stuff like that. So I think like when it comes to thinking logically, I think what's gonna happen a lot is if you look at your data set, right? Let's say you're looking at a sales data set. You gotta think, okay, what could get like besides just analyzing data, like what are we trying to accomplish here? If it's a sales data set, there has to be something going on here, right? We could look at things like revenue, look at things like revenue. We look at things like maybe there's churn, maybe like what states brought in most money. That's all good and all, but like we are looking to find something to solve. We're looking for something to solve. And this is more for like almost a critical thinking or just problem solving in general. You're trying to find something to solve. And instead of just taking stuff, analyze it, making a dashboard, which I do on some videos, but I do it as more like, hey, here's a quick Tableau video to practice. It's more for practicing. If I'm making a legit project, I'm trying to solve a problem. And I think the best way to do that is to understand the data you're working with. What type of data is it? Ask ChatGPT, like, hey, here's, take the first 10 rows. Here's my data set. Here's 2 tables. Here's the data set. What are some things I could try to find and solve? And it'll kind of guide you along on, like, hey, like, try to figure out, how throughout time maybe certain customers fell off or this and that. Like, you're just trying to keep thinking more and more with that. But I really think it comes down to domain. If you understand the data itself and everything it's working with, you'll be able to get better with that. Books, you're talking to the wrong person. I don't, I'll be honest, I don't read, I read books, like regular, I guess more like, thriller type books, like regular books or whatnot. But, God, what are those? I mean, there people talk about books all the time. I don't know. I don't want to sound like, this might sound not as confident about myself, but I don't, like, I do work and I do data Frenchie, but I'm just an Excel person. I read a lot of Excel stuff. Like, I'm more of a person that likes to watch YouTube videos or read blog posts. I don't really go out and purchase books or go to the library and whatnot. So I'm really sorry. I'm definitely not the best person for the book advice. But there's a lot of things where if you are looking for more, like, storytelling with data is a great one if you're looking for more data visualization, which I find, like, books are really good, I think, for data visualization. I think those are really, really good to understand the logic and, the understanding of why using certain visuals, stuff like that. But I'm definitely not the person for the books. I'm really sorry. If you want to talk about, like, books, like, we're talking, thrillers that are out or whatnot, we could talk that stuff up. My wife's a big reader. She's getting me into it because my ADHD is just running like crazy, and I'm trying to do anything to chill out a little bit. So I'm trying reading out. It's a progress, but it's getting there. Not really great term, but what about folks that are looking for a job quickly? Yeah, so if you're looking for a job quickly, and Kevin, I know you access that, the mini course I made with the LinkedIn, and I know it's hard where it's like, if you want a job quickly, what's the best thing to do? And if it's quickly, I mean, the best thing is just having the best resume you can, best portfolio, having all that stuff is just the best, and probably more relying on your applications and stuff like that is the best way to go if you want it quickly. I think LinkedIn's something where, at least for me, yeah, referring people to a job, I get messages a lot. Oh, can you refer me for this and this? And it's not that I don't mean to get back to them. I just get too. I can't do it. I've had to just kind of halt that. But if I know you, and not that we need to be chatting every day, but if I've seen you on LinkedIn and I've seen you around and I see what you could do and you reach out to me, I'd have no problem referring you. However, that takes time. It takes a long, long time. The best thing to do, and I kind of briefly talked about it, but commenting and getting more active on that way is very useful. If you're not someone who feels ready to go make content, which is not easy. I mean, there's days I don't want to get on LinkedIn and do it, but I know I'm trying to use LinkedIn as more of building data Frenchie than my current career. But yeah, if you're looking for a job quickly, LinkedIn right now might not be the strongest in them, but you should still have it because utilizing things like my job board or going on LinkedIn search and doing it yourself, those are going to be by far the most useful aspects to it. And of course, being able to have a good resume, a good profile, stuff like that will always be the best. In case if anyone doesn't have it, it's right there if you want to check it out. But yeah, LinkedIn is tough because I think it didn't help the most in my first, but it definitely helped a lot in my second and third one. I had more social proof. Not even just I'm talking from a following. I'm talking just stuff to showcase on my LinkedIn profile. I had much more to work with. Easy apply. Oh God, I've gotten interviews from it, but it's kind of like Indeed. It's kind of think if it takes 10 seconds to apply for a job, how many people are going to apply? It's going to be thousands. So, what was it? I don't have much experience with data analysis, but my previous experience was purely finance. Do you think I could show it? Can I give you some ideas? Do you have $100? No, I'm kidding. So if you have finance experience, that's probably maybe the best field to have experience in. I mean, finance is, I mean, you can do so much with finance. Like, when you're showing off 3 to 4 projects, it also kind of determines with that. Your question about the 3 4 projects, it's more like you have experience in purely finance, which is extremely powerful. So much could be used with that. But the question is, do you want to stay in finance? That's my first question. Answer that question, and I'll answer the rest of your question there. But let me know, do you want to stay in finance, or do you want to get out of it? That'd be my follow-up to that. Between self-learner and boot camps, which way has the best chance to get at least an interview? Best way to get an interview. So, okay, if you're self-learning, you have to do everything on your own. Where, if what was it? I'm not promoting data frenzy here, but that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to build that bridge between self-learning and bootcamp, like somewhere in the middle, where it's like there's gonna be some stuff that's live, and if you want to go more bootcamp route, I'm not doing a bootcamp, but like there's stuff that could push along that way, and also there's a lot of things for self-learning, like these webinars, the mini courses I do. So self-learning, you'll have to do everything on your own. You have to create your own network. You have to push yourself out there on your own. No one's there to really guide you along. Boot camps, if they're reputable, will put you on the right path forward with LinkedIn, and also with boot camps, if they're reputable too, you'll have a lot of people who have graduated who are in the program. So if you ever go on LinkedIn and get more active, you'll have people to support you. So I can't tell you which one's best. I don't think either will like put you way, way higher than the other. To get an interview, you just need to be well educated enough to make the best resumes you can, a solid portfolio, and just constantly staying in the loop and not just blasting out 1,000 applications and expecting a job in a week. There's really, it's tough because there's, I'm not going to lie here at all. I hope no one gets the idea that I do this. Like, I don't mean to, if I do. But I don't make the content on LinkedIn to make it feel like, if you do this and this, you'll become a data analyst, no problem. Like, I try not to do that. I want to be very straightforward that you could do all the right things and still be very far behind. You can still learn everything, do the right stuff, and you might not be getting as many interviews as a person over there or that person over there. I got my job in 2 months. I'm not showing that. I don't show it off on LinkedIn because that's not realistic for everybody. But if I was some kind of guru, I'd be on there blowing that stuff up all the time. So the best chances to get you anything is just you and your brain. Like, you have to educate yourself enough to understand, okay, what gets me ahead of everyone else? You need a good resume. You need a good portfolio. A lot of people don't have that. So if you have a good one, you're already ahead of them. But how do you approach jobs? How do you find them? How do you connect with people? A lot of people are doing the same thing over and over again, not getting anywhere because of, they're just doing the same thing over and over again. So you'll be surprised how many people are out there who might appear they're doing good, but they're not. So, just heads up. Heading into healthcare data analytics, if you have healthcare experience or domain, that is helpful. If not, like someone like me, who I want to get into healthcare, but I don't have that experience, I looked at more operational roles, finance, sales, intelligence, anything, because healthcare is not just hospital data, patient data. Like, it's not just what you might think that is. There's so many departments in healthcare. So just continue to think, how can I get into healthcare using my knowledge I have right now? And that's most likely not in a very healthcare focused position. It's more in a operations, finance, sales, stuff like that. Like, I'm in sales operations. Sales operations, like, slash finance is where I'm in. So I'm in a mental healthcare company, but I don't really touch healthcare data. I touch sales. Like, I do a lot of projections on what deals are we going to close on. What does our pipeline look like? Stuff like that. So I work for a healthcare company, but I'm not doing healthcare data stuff. No. So yeah, if you don't want to get into finance, if you don't want to stay in it, I think that, like, and I see Kevin, put a good question prompt in there. I think what's going to be really good is it's always good to have a sales project. Talking about sales, I mean, most companies are trying to make money. So if you could prove how to make money, then you're valuable. Sales is good. Marketing, operations, kind of stuff that like they're not as fancy, but something that you could work with that you can solve. You could go in there and figure something out. You're not going to go into a manufacturing data set and be like, what the heck is this? Like, what am I looking at? Like, that's not going to help you or anyone. So picking domains like sales, operations, even do a finance one, even though you want to be in finance, if you do a finance one, it's going to come out good, right? So I really try to keep the more general topics that could be viewed by more people and understood easier instead of getting too specific in your projects. Let's see for now. Yeah, Justin, I appreciate it, Justin. I appreciate coming by. And like I said, I'm going to be hosting something every single week. Every single week I'll be having some kind of, I'm going to do this like roadmap to data analytics thing like once every 2 months, get a new audience every 2 months. Some people might, want to see it again or whatnot. But I'll be doing I'll be doing one every single week. And also I'm going to try to bring on some other people too to help out. What's in now? Thank you very much. Yeah, and of course, yeah, no problem. Yeah, of course. Always here to help answer that. Let's look a little more time. So if anyone has any more questions, you can feel free to throw it in there before wrap this up. It's already an hour and a half. I didn't realize. Oh my gosh, I didn't even know I was. I didn't know I was talking that long. But like I said, make sure too that, like I said, anyone who signed up through Data Frenchie will get. I'm gonna export it, do like a random drawing. Winner gets a free written resume review. But like I said, I'm gonna be running these webinars every single week. The only thing I ask is if you're watching this live or recorded, that I'm doing everything on YouTube for a reason. Doing this on YouTube allows me to not hide any of this behind the paywall or anything like that. So if you subscribe, like it, whatever you gotta do, it would be highly appreciated so I can continue to keep not even just the webinars, but I put all my free courses on here too. I'm trying to build this YouTube, and if I could, I'm all about transparency. Get some kind of, get monetized on YouTube. I think that'd be great to give free content while YouTube gives me money. I mean, I think it works out. So, yeah, if there's any other questions, I'll answer it. If not, I'll wrap up. I'll give that, maybe, 10, 15 seconds before I wrap up. And then, if anyone's going to have last questions, you can answer it. If not, I'll wrap this up. But yeah, I appreciate you guys coming by. Like I said, in the bio, there is a link with, all my socials, Data Frenchie, all that stuff. Levi, inspiring. Yeah, no, I appreciate Levi. Yeah, I mean, I try to use my platform to be realistic. I try to be inspirational, but also realistic. Like, 2022 was teaching 41,000. Working 70 hours a week. I was also a baseball instructor, and I delivered DoorDash, Uber, all that stuff. I worked like a horse. I was working nonstop to provide for my family, and I'm grateful for everything that's happened because it's led to me this position where I could sit here on a Tuesday night and do a webinar and not have to go out and deliver groceries and stuff. So very well, I'm appreciative of this. So, on that note, I appreciate if anyone has a question you get asked before I end it. But I really appreciate everyone coming by. Very much appreciated. Like I said, I'll be doing these webinars every single week, sometimes switching up from Tuesday to a different day. I appreciate everyone coming by, and I will share about. Oh, yeah, share about. Yeah, oh, that's awesome. I appreciate that. I'll have to reach out to her. About that. I appreciate that. But yeah, I appreciate you guys coming by. Like I said, feel free to, leave a comment on here if you have any questions. You reach out to me on Data Frenchie or anything like that. I appreciate you guys coming by, and see you guys around. Appreciate it. Have a good rest.